Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It is March the 3rd, early afternoon here on the East Coast United States. Late evening in Ukraine, war is raging on, and I'm here to give you the latest updates because so much has happened. Thank you for being here, liking, subscribing, and sharing. As you can see on the title of the thumbnail, we're talking about the propaganda assault that has been unleashed on Ukraine. It is absolutely unbelievable what is coming out of the United States. I'm going to share with you a lot of video clips over the next 12, 13, 14 minutes. Additionally, President Zelenskyy just tweeted out and spoke. I've got so much to share with you. Thank you for being here. This is the latest right now where we stand in the world in regard to Ukraine. Of course, we know Trump touting out that some kind of big speech coming tomorrow night. We'll see what that entails, and we'll talk about that later. But let's look at the cards we have right now. March the 3rd afternoon. Thank you for being here, sharing, liking, subscribing. Incredible growth over the last 2 or 3 days, and thank you for that. Let's jump right in. First of all, Zelenskyy tweeting out just a few minutes ago, we continue our work with partners. There have already been talks. We are still preparing for other steps in the near future. It is very important that we try to make our diplomacy really meaningful and aimed at ending this war as soon as possible. Please hear that phrase, ending this war as soon as possible, because you're going to hear it again the opposite way from the Americans. We need real peace. And I would love to underline real peace. And Ukrainians want it the most because the war is destroying our cities and villages. We are losing our people. We need to stop the war and ensure security. We work together with America and with European partners, and we greatly count on America's support on the way to peace. Peace is needed as soon as possible. In fact, Zelenskyy was speaking about this here. I have it voiced over for you.
The agreement on the minerals, the deal is ready. We are... It wasn't ready. There were many variants, but there is the last one. It is ready, and the ministers can sign it. Everywhere where I have said it as a president that we can do it, we do not retreat. It is our policy to continue despite what happened in the past. We are constructive. If we agreed upon signing it, we were ready to sign it, and honestly, I believe that the United States would be ready as well. Perhaps.
Let's just call it for what it is. Zelenskyy was ready to sign the agreement. The other government members, for example, like the Treasury Secretary of the United States, they were all ready to sign the agreement. They were discussing security guarantees, but in regard to the mineral agreement, they were ready to sign. But what happened in the Oval Office was absolutely an attack. It is purely obvious. You know, we've shown the polls, we've shown the viewpoints, not only from inside America, but from around the world. You know, I hate to call it, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but honestly, it looked like a setup. And what is your thoughts on it? You think it was a setup? Maybe I need to put that as a poll question on the video today, because that conversation went a completely different direction. The mineral deal, Ukraine was ready to sign. There was just not the proper clarification on the security guarantees, and then everything went off the rails. Now let's continue on. Donald Trump tweeting out, this is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelenskyy. When Zelenskyy said yesterday in Great Britain that the war with Russia is very, very far away. So Trump takes it, says it's the worst statement that could ever been made. America will not put up with it much longer. It is what I was saying. This guy, so he went from dictator to Mr. President to this guy, doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing in Europe. In the meeting they had with Zelenskyy, stated flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of show of strength to get against Russia. What are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking. They understand that there is a real war there, and unfortunately, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and many, many others have no clue of the reality going on there, and I'm going to prove it to you in just a moment with the flip-flop of the century coming from Lindsey Graham. So what we have here is not only a failure to communicate, but we have a complete breakdown in understanding. very, very far away doesn't mean we want the war to go on for years and years. We want to end the war, but there must be a just peace and there must be a strong peace. That is what Zelensky is saying. Now, what does the White House want? This is what they want. Let's be honest.
There's quite a disconnect happening here at the White House and with their allies in Kyiv, because I have been told by a senior official here that nothing's going to happen with this minerals deal until Zelensky goes in front of cameras and makes an explicit public apology for the way that he behaved in the Oval Office with that meeting.
So let's be honest. That's what we're talking about. Zelensky's got to come apologize for his behavior. I'm sorry, but it was the president of the United States pointing his finger at Zelensky. It was J.D. Vance pointing his finger at Zelensky. It was the president of the United States putting his hand on the shoulder of Zelensky. It was their attack dogs going after the man who was communicating in his third language without an interpreter. That requires an apology from Zelensky? I don't think so. I'm an American and I love my country, but I'm telling you right now, it's the White House that needs to apologize for that. We have a White House that is completely under the spell of Vladimir Putin and the propaganda that is coming out of Russia. We have a complete breakdown, and it continues on, guys. Waltz updated talking about Zelensky. I just want to play you a few seconds of this because it's just ridiculous.
Success looks like President Zelensky sitting down and talking the terms of peace, talking about what he needs to see, Ukraine needs to see to get to a partial ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire, and an end to this war. And what became so evident to us in that session was he's not ready to talk peace at all. But here's the problem. Time is not on his side. Time is not on the side of just forever continuing this conflict. The American
people, what was obvious to us, and time's not on his side. Of course, time's not on his side. Because his friends and allies and those that were supposed to provide security guarantees have stabbed Ukraine in the back. Let's just be very clear, blunt, and honest about it. That's the fact. Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons with security guarantees from the United States and Great Britain, and of course, the invading nation of Russia. So we know that that entire deal is nothing but a sham, and Ukraine is paying the price for it. But to make these statements about Ukraine, they don't want peace. They want the war to go on. They want the war to go on. None of you guys have a clue what you're talking about. All you need to do, though, is get on a plane, head to Poland, get into Ukraine, and see what the reality is there so you understand the death and the destruction and the evil that Vladimir Putin and Russia is raging and bringing down on Ukraine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Let's continue on. Tulsi Gabbard, absolutely clueless about Ukraine. I can't even believe what she's going to say.
So, though, think that they're in more alignment, and they should be, with the U.S. when it comes to those freedoms and things you talk about. Certainly, those are not things that you would say that Russia or Putin celebrates or bestows on his own people.
That's correct. I would not make that claim, and it's clear that that's not the case, nor does President Trump. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about many of these European countries and Zelensky himself, who claim to be standing and fighting for the cause of freedom and democracy, when we actually look at what's happening in reality in these countries, as well as with Zelensky's government in Ukraine, is the exact opposite. You have the canceling of elections in Ukraine. You have political parties being silenced or even criminalized or thrown in prison. You have the freedom of religion, churches being shut down. You have political opposition being silenced. You have total government control of the media. We could go down a whole laundry list.
Okay, I've heard enough of her trash. Let me tell you guys, from somebody who's worked inside Ukraine for 27 years and just returned there a couple of weeks ago, everything she just said is a propaganda Putin talking point, and they are all lies. Ukraine, one example, has not closed any churches. This is the work I do. There are churches everywhere inside Ukraine. What the reference there to is the spy organization of the Russian Orthodox Church, which is an extended agent of the FSB, the KGB, Archbishop Kirill. It's nothing but a scam for spying and recruiting those to fight against Ukraine and world order. That's a fact. Canceling elections. We're in a war and martial law. It is on the Constitution of Ukraine. Everything has went according to the books and is proper. Throwing political opponents in prison. Hello, isn't it Putin that poisons anybody that even breathes a word against him? Zelensky's not throwing political opponents into prison. He is throwing, well, he's not even throwing the government, the judicial system, traitors into jail who are fighting for Russia against Ukraine. That's the truth. Come on, somebody. Let's tell what the real story is here and get the real truth out. Tulsi Gabbard has completely lost her mind because she has no idea. She may have some good points on other things. I don't know. But when it comes to Ukraine, she is absolutely clueless and out to lunch. How about Lindsey Graham flip-flopping in 2 weeks? 2 weeks. And this is why I'm calling this chaos. We're talking about the propaganda explosion against Ukraine. Check this out. Lindsey Graham right here, reversing in 2 weeks.
I want to tell you and your people, you're the ally I've been hoping for all my life. Not one American has died defending Ukraine. You've taken our weapons and you've kicked their ass. And I'm very proud to have you as our ally. And I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelenskyy again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with.
Can you believe that, ladies and gentlemen, from Lindsey Graham 2 weeks ago? Man, this is the best guy in Europe. He's fighting so my kids don't have to take our weapons and go kick their rear. 2 weeks later. What an idiot. I wouldn't want to do business with this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, that is called a stab in the back from somebody. He's been there 9 times and has been a great friend of Zelenskyy in Ukraine. Can you imagine the pressure Ukraine under right now? Zelenskyy himself having to think that just 2 weeks ago, Lindsey Graham standing with him, locked arm in arm, and now stabbing him in the back. This is the propaganda machine that has absolutely exploded like a nuclear bomb against Ukraine. Now, let's just push it on with Elon Musk. Zelenskyy wants a forever war, a never-ending graft meat grinder. This is evil. They are defending their sovereign territory. Russia wants a forever war and a never-ending meat grinder. Ukraine is about saving lives. We'll leave it there. Donald Trump has spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far. Well, of course, sir, that's because we had to get them and their dependency upon that broken, and that has happened during this war. Come on, you just take partial truths and you push them. The bottom of that saying, retruths. Let me tell you something. It's such a spin of reality. That's the problem. It is an absolute spin of reality. Podolyak, advisor to the office of the president, speaking about Ukrainian freedom. He says, in Ukraine, borders operate freely and elections are held regularly. Unlike Russia, we do not have a dictatorship. This is absurd. Listen to Podolyak.
Russia has a classic authoritarian system and so on. In Ukraine, this is nonsense. Everyone gets why an open country with open borders is very competitive. Well, Mr. Vassal, I needn't tell you about our highly competitive information and political space. We've had 6 presidents, frequent early elections, and so on. Well, there are realities, emotional words, and authoritarian misfits, but also non-authoritarians.
There you have it. You have Podolyak telling you about the absolute freedom that is truly inside Ukraine. That's the advisor to the office of the president. We have open borders. Our elections have been proper. That's the truth. How about Luke Pollard, the UK defense minister? Only Ukrainians can choose their leaders, says UK Defense Secretary Luke Pollard. Zelenskyy is a democratically elected leader, and he has made it clear that his job is to bring lasting peace to Ukraine. Listen to Pollard.
the meeting last week was very uncomfortable, but it's for the Ukrainians to choose who their leaders are. President Zelenskyy is a democratically elected leader. He's been clear that he sees his role as bringing lasting peace to Ukraine, and he's been clear over the weekend as well that he's prepared to take steps himself with his position if it helps secure a lasting peace for Ukraine. But it's for the Ukrainians to decide on what terms that peace is conducted, what, how, and to what extent that plan works. But we.
Thank you, sir. That is correctly stated, democratically elected, and it is their responsibility to choose their leaders. It is their responsibility. It is a sovereign nation. It is not an underling. In fact, Zelenskyy being so funny about Graham talking about getting rid of Zelenskyy as president. I didn't even want to play the video clip, but Zelenskyy said, fine, I'll give you citizenship and you can come to my country and vote. You see, this is where the relationships are completely broken down. I want to introduce you now to a new person named Gabrielius Landsbergis. He's the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania during this war, 2020 to 2024. And like other Baltic countries, remembers the occupation by Moscow well. Landsbergis voices an extremely important idea, and it's spot on. Peace is worthless if it does not go hand in hand with freedom and justice. Such peace is nothing more than a trap. Listen to Landsbergis.
Putin is in an advantageous position now. He promises Trump everything he wants, and he gets what he wants himself. This is a horror movie, a geopolitical horror. When President Trump and his administration say, "We seek a stable and lasting peace," words have meaning. They don't mention sovereignty, territorial integrity, democracy, etc. So, for example, when Lithuania was occupied by the Soviet Union, we had, so to speak, a stable peace. There was no front line. No one was shooting. But there was no Lithuania either, meaning one could say we want a stable peace for Ukraine. But there will be no Ukraine. Yes, peace is very important, but it must be just.
Wow, so powerful. I almost want to play it again. This is a geopolitical horror movie, and when you talk about peace, and he's remembering back to when Lithuania was a part of the Soviet Union, you can say, oh, well, it's Lithuania. No, it's not Lithuania. It is under that evil empire, and he's making that direct correlation to Ukraine today here in 2025. And that is why there must be a just and strong peace. You need to listen to people who know. And unfortunately, the American government is not listening to people that know. They are listening to the one that is waging the war, Vladimir Putin, and his cronies at the Kremlin, who are spewing these talking points that we are hearing from Graham, from Waltz, from Gabbard, from Trump, from Vance, from Rubio. The list goes on and on and on. I am just still in shock how lost the American administration is in regard to Ukraine. Absolutely lost. You may ask, if you're new to the channel, go, Greg, why are you not so lost? 27 years working in Ukraine, and I will defend them and fight for them and stand with them razom do permoga, until victory. That is it, because this is life-changing and global changing. It is reality of what we are facing. Last couple of things I have for you today. Erdogan, Turkey. A solution to end the war cannot be found without the participation of Ukraine and the Russian Federation. Fantastic, exactly. While we continue, Turkey, to support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Kudos to you, Mr. Erdogan. We believe that a possible solution cannot be found without either Russia or Ukraine. What that means is, Donald Trump, you cannot decide what happens in Ukraine without Ukraine and Russia. That's it. You can't change presidents. You can't change the strategy. You can stop supporting, but you can't decide for them. Kudos to you, Erdogan. And of course, everybody, this is just, tomorrow night will be big. I will tell it like it is. Big. You know, it's all about the Donald. That's where we're at. We'll see. Tomorrow night, Donald Trump speaking before a joint session of Congress. He says, I'm going to blow it wide open, and I'm summarizing here. I'm going to expose everything, going to tell everything. It's going to be big. I will tell it like it is. Well, we shall see. We shall see. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you to our team. Thank you for continuing to share. Please leave a comment on this video. We are cooking. What are your thoughts on all these different viewpoints I've been sharing with you? What is your true opinion? And I thank you for sharing. You guys be blessed. Have a great day, and we'll be back at you later.